Hello, welcome back to Stinky. I tried to record this video once before, something got messed up, so I have to redo it. But this is kind of an update, channel update I guess, where kind of what am I planning? First and foremost, biggest, I guess like, thing is the Skyopolis series, not going to continue. I have a few episodes recorded. I then got up to like 14 recorded, and I just stopped liking it. For me, it just got boring. Like, most of the footage ended up just being running back and forth in the sifters, and it just wasn't fun. It wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't really fun to play either, you know? It's kind of awkward, and progress was just getting really slow. It just ended up not being enjoyable for me, and it wouldn't have been enjoyable content to watch either. So I decided to stop that series. You know, I don't have anything wrong with the mod pack. I think people should still go play it, you know, it's still a good mod pack. It's still pretty fun. It's just for me, I just didn't really enjoy the sifting feature too much. And I don't know, it kind of, with school and everything, got a little hard to keep up with. So no more Skyopolis series. Maybe someday I could revisit it, but right now for the foreseeable future, no. I probably won't upload the remaining videos in the series just because they're so boring to watch, you know. They're not exciting. It's literally just sifting for like 40 minutes each episode. So it's not very enjoyable to watch. So that series I'm just gonna end. It's just, again, it's just not exciting. And it just kind of got to a point where it was stagnant. You know, not really any progress, nothing enjoyable to watch. Like, it just reached that phase, you know. And that's probably on me. Probably a little inexperienced to be going for a mod pack like that, at least, of that quality, because that mod pack isn't really like action focused, you know, like some of the other ones are, but that mod pack isn't really focused on, you know, action and combat and massive steps in progress. It's kind of more linear, not linear, well, yeah, I guess linear. You're not really making like exponential growth. You know, you're not like clearing a dungeon and then all of a sudden 200 more things open. You know, you're kind of just clearing one, like sifting through like 20 things, and then eventually, hopefully you get something, you know. So for me, that wasn't really that enjoyable to watch, to play, to edit, really to do anything with. So yeah, I just decided it's probably best to just end that series, because, you know, this wasn't brilliant in any of the video making features on it. So that's the biggest, I guess, news. The Devil May Cry series, I'm actually going to turn into a What's the Big Stink, just because I forgot to record audio for half the episodes. So that's why I kind of abruptly stopped. So I had to kind of go back and redo all that. So I've been working on that. Big thing I've been working on is Final Fantasy VIII. What's the Big Stink? I've been working on that a ton. And that's kind of been like a year-long project. It took me about a year to beat the actual game. So, and I started writing the script for it. But kind of with What's the Big Stink, that's kind of the way I'd like to take the channel. More into like What's the Big Stink features rather than these gameplay ones. Because I'm just not great at containing. You know, I'm just not that great at creating those Let's Play videos in that sense. So, and it's hard to keep up with school and everything. It's really hard. You know, trying to study and do homework and do that. It's a lot of extra work, you know, and do sports on top, so, and extracurriculars, you know, it just, it doesn't really work. It'll be better if I make small progress on a big video rather than not being able to make any progress on little videos. Does that make sense? But one way I'd really like to take the channel with What's a Big Stink is more into that review style. But also with What's a Big Stink, I'd really like to kind of put like a spin on it. So obviously the review remains the same, right? The review is going to remain primarily focused on the game, gameplay, all that stuff, story, whatever. You know, the main features of the game. But I'd also like, because I felt really called to do this, like, not put a Christian spin on it, but to be honest with Christians in the video reviewing games. Because when I was a kid growing up, you know, I had very strict parents, so, you know, for me, I feel like that helps kind of guide you in if you can, like, what the content of the game is. Also, we don't have any. So, it's kind of like, what content is in the game as a Christian? Is this good? Is this, like, glorifying God, or is it something I'm doing? You know, it's like a game that's going to lead me astray or something, you know? And I feel like that's a question that a lot of Christians have. Because, like, some games are fine. Like, I would say 90% of the games are fine. But also, like, you gotta think, a lot of, like, parents and stuff don't really know the games, right? And, or, like, even some people like my, oh, crap. Even a lot of people like my age don't really know the games. So it's kind of like trying to figure that out, you know, trying to figure out that balance of what is going on in that game, you know. Is it fine to play, or are there things and content in that game that might be bad, or any good lessons I can learn from that game, right? So, big game I've been playing recently, Baldur's Gate. I think a lot of Christians have questions about the game, and, you know, obviously don't want to get into it in this video, but, you know, like, games like that where there are questions about, well, there is content in that game, right? But is it bad, or is it fine, you know? So kind of like questions like that, and even like some games, like Stardew Valley, I don't think any Christian would be like, there's content in that game, there's bad content in that game or something, I don't know. I don't think any Christian would say that, but you never know. So, that's kind of the direction I want to start moving into. I've just felt really called to work, to, like, do that. Because I've kind of been, like, I don't know, I don't want to say not serious or, like, anything, but, like, I feel like there are, like, fruits that you produce when you're strong in your faith, you know? And I kind of, like, have been neglecting doing stuff and, like, expressing. And I'm not really an evangelist or anything, you know, I don't really have that gift, but I love video games, and I love God, so I'd like to really combine those two, in a way. Maybe it ends up, somebody's like, look, just keep doing, like, playthroughs, but just make sure that you're a Christian, you know, keep good morals, don't curse, blah, blah, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So, good footage that, like, families can watch, family-friendly gaming, like, what I grew up with, you know, that kind of stuff. Because, you know, my videos, I try to be a little, like, I don't want to say hard at the beginning, but, you know, try to be, like, cool at the beginning, you know. But in reality, that's not really who I am, and that's not really who I'm called to be, you know. So I'm kind of going to try to take a path I think more accurately reflects me. And, you know, I might try to get my friends on, too, to play some games, you know, maybe Magicka and stuff, you know, do a review on that, or, like, whatever, you know, and if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments, or anything else, you know, but I just, I feel really called to make this adjustment for the channel, you know, instead of just being like, oh, I'm making games for myself. You know, to actually have the purpose behind the videos and to use them for a greater purpose than just myself, you know. So that's kind of my goal with it, you know, just thinking about that. And I'm not gonna let be like, I know there's definitely some people who are like, oh, I don't know, I feel like Christians, like force their, like, force their thoughts on people. I'm not doing that, okay? I'm just being honest with people and upfront about, like, what games have, what content games have, right? Especially for parents, dude. Think about all the games that are out there and all the reviews and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the reviews are just kind of, this is a good game, 10 out of 10, like whatever, you know. And games are expensive now. They're like $70. They're not cheap. So, you know, it's kind of like, for them, I guess, like what is that game look like, you know? And I'm obviously out the gameplay in the background, so you can physically see. But that's kind of the direction I want to start going, and I might have other videos about it too. Maybe some, like, not theology. I'm not a theology bro. Not my thing. Like, I enjoy talking about it, but there's people infinitely more intelligent than me who are out there. So, listen to them instead. You know, don't listen to me. But I might talk about some stuff, especially like there's some things that bother me that like a lot of online Christians do. So maybe I'll talk about that, you know, be like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this as Christians, I don't think. Give my 2 cents, you know, or whatever, you know. Those will probably be more infrequent. Maybe testimony video, I don't know. That would be enjoyable. I'd do that once I get, like, an audience. And if people are curious to hear it, I'd share it, you know. It's not like a super crazy testimony or anything, but I think it's a pretty good one, you know. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with the channel. I kind of want to turn it more into the what's the big stink, instead of just whatever, you know, like these like not amazing playthroughs. You know, maybe they continue, I don't know. Maybe they just continue with the Christian spin, who knows. But for right now, I think I'd like to focus on the What's a Big Stinks, especially with the FF8 one, because I've been working on that one for a while. You know, that was kind of like a big game for me. You know, it's one of my favorites. So, you know, just kind of focusing a little bit more on reviewing games, and especially like maybe some less common games, because like I feel like a lot of those less common games have some good lessons too, and I feel like they're overlooked a lot, you know. And maybe if I could even just get like maybe if I can even just get like a little bit more like eyes on them, that'd be pretty cool, pretty fun. I don't really know any like Christian games, so it's probably gonna be reviewed very often. And I'd like to also expand What's a Big Stink into like tabletop RPGs and stuff, because I feel like that's another area. There's a lot of Christians and stuff who are like, oh, these are evil, or are they, you know, like, what are they actually like? So, you know, I'd kind of like to expand into that as well. Just because I think it'll help you, you know, because those are serious, not like serious decisions, but like those are actual questions that people have, you know, and you can't really answer those questions if somebody doesn't play and isn't honest with you too, you know. Like if somebody's just like, oh, I like this game so it's good. Well, no, you know, that's not how it works. It's got to be like, if the game actually has like good qualities to it, then yeah, you know, but kind of like that. And like some things just like might just remain like similar to the same, you know. Like the actual structure of the episode wouldn't change, you know. It wouldn't suddenly become VeggieTales or whatever, you know. It would remain the same structure, you know. Gameplay, story, all that. It would just have like a section at the end where it talks about like, okay, what's the content of this game like? Is it good? You know? Does it have some content that's a little iffy? Or, you know, and like, even like, also like, is there like, is this game acceptable for different age groups? I know obviously we have the teen everything else rating, but like sometimes those don't give you enough info, you know, and sometimes they can be over exaggerated or even under exaggerated. I don't trust those ratings a ton. They're just kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of iffy. They're like fine for the most part, but on the other part, sometimes they're like a little too far. You know, especially like when they first came out, I feel like they were way too strict with it. Because like, I don't think, this might be a controversial take, but I don't think just because there's violence in something inherently makes it bad for Christians. You know, I feel like that's kind of, I don't want to say like a scapegoat or anything, but like, think of like movies and stuff, right? Like, how many action movies do we have that Christians are like, oh, that's fine to watch, but then like if a video game has that same thing, it's like all of a sudden not. And I know there's a difference because people are like, oh, well, in a video game you're making the action, but in a movie you're just watching it. Same thing. Like, I don't really get that difference a whole lot, but fine, to each their own. But, you know, like, obviously, yes, extreme violence is not good. You know, and you're not learning anything from there being extreme violence. And, like, Hotline Miami, I love that game. But, like, I don't think I would ever let, like, my kid play Hotline Miami in the future, you know? Oh. Like, that would just not be good. I feel like it's just not a game for kids. And same with, like, I've never played GTA, but I don't think I would ever let my kids play GTA. And I love CSGO, but they would never be touching CSGO as a kid. Like, there's just no way. Devil May Cry, even though, like, you know, honestly, like, they're a teenager, yeah. Completely different scenario there, right? You're more developed, you have more of an understanding of right and wrong. And, you know, not everything is inherently evil. People are, I think people are, but, you know, not everything that's, like, not explicitly a Christian material is inherently evil all of a sudden, you know? Like, listening to Britney Spears is not inherently like evil or anything like that, you know? It's just kind of like those things. Well, I want to be like, oh well, oh no. I just want to be like, oh, it's not bad, you know, like, give my honest thoughts and be like, yeah, look, I think this game's appropriate for kids, like, it's got good lessons in it, it's got whatever, you know, or, like, because sometimes people need to watch those videos to be like, look, what is this game like, and, you know, sometimes you'll just never find out until you actually play the game, or if somebody's honest about the game. So that's my goal. My goal is to be honest about the games and transparent and be like, look, this game's got a ton of this content. Play it if you want, right? I'm not telling you. I'm not your, like, boss. If you're like, yeah, that game's fine for me, it's fine. But it's just, these are, like, the warnings about the game. Of, like, the content it has and that kind of stuff. And, like, you know, for some people, that's important to them, right? They're like, hey, I struggle with this, so, you know, I need to avoid X, Y, and Z, right? Maybe somebody is, like, lustful, and they're like, hey, I need to avoid sexual content in games. To be honest with them, like, if a game has it, be like, yeah, look, I want to play this game. Like, I probably wouldn't advise Baldur's Gate 3. You can turn it off, but if you don't have self-control, and you aren't going to do that, then you probably shouldn't play it, right? Like, I feel like that's not, like, that hard to figure out. Same with, like, Fear and Hunger is a little bit different. It's not really the same, like, kind. Fear and Hunger, like, has a purpose for it, you know? So, like, things like that, too. If it has a purpose in a game, that's way different than, you know, it just being a game to be in a game, you know? Like, if you're just putting it in a game for, like, fan service, I think it's a little bit different. And, like, obviously you can just avoid it, right? But at the same time, it's like some people struggle with self-control, man. So, it's best if they get an honest person being like, look, if you struggle with this, just don't play it. I'm gonna be honest with you. And obviously the reviews are not gonna have that content in them. But you know, if that's like a serious like issue, if somebody's gonna get a game or not, then they deserve it out, right? And yeah, you can read like Common Sense Media and stuff, but Common Sense Media isn't very trustworthy. They tend to be a little too far, I feel like, where they're like, this has this immediately evil. Like, Overwatch, I think it's not that bad. They overplay it a lot in the Common Sense Media review of it, and that's why I almost couldn't get the game as a kid. But, you know, I did get the game, and I was fine. So, obviously, though, part of the game also is the external resources of the game, and that's where Overwatch has a lot of, you know, interesting content, but it's not Blizzard's fault, right? I don't think anyone would say Blizzard is going out and making those videos, right? But they're out there. And if that kind of stuff is out there about a game, you should probably know. You know, just so you can be safe. I don't know. And, like, for me, personally, watching a lot of YouTube recently, I've been, like, really annoyed when, it's been, like, just, like, every 5 minutes cursing YouTube, you know? For me, it's not the YouTube I grew up with. I don't really want to watch that. You know, it's just... I don't know, it just, like, leaves a bad taste in your mouth, you know? So, it's kind of the direction I want to go. You know, start making those reviews, and start pivoting towards, like, Christian content that they can watch, you know, with their kids if they want. Or, you know, just content that isn't, like, cursing at you and doing all that stuff. I know it's gonna be way harder to grow the channel like that. And, you know, what is going on? It's gonna be way harder to grow a channel like that. And there's gonna be a lot of people who are just gonna check out the second they hear Christian. You know, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm out. I'm not listening to this. I'm not watching this, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You're entitled to that. You know? But in the same way, if you're not in a, like, super macho, like, cursing every 5 seconds YouTube, you deserve that too. So, that's kind of where I'm at with the channel. Kind of want to shift into more of that Christian focus. You know, family friendly too. Maybe shift away from playthroughs. I don't know. I'm still kind of conflicted on that. Because I really want to make those What's the Big Stinks. I really enjoy making them. They're a ton of fun to make. And, you know, they allow me to take my time on them. And I feel like they're higher quality. Because of that. Because I can take my time on them. So, yeah, that's kind of the shift in focus. Kind of just, you know, making good videos. There'll be occasional ones where I talk about stuff, you know, like my testimony, or like, I guess, like, stories, or like that kind of stuff, you know. Maybe there'll be like gameplay in the background while like stories are going, you know, Bible stories or like readings from the Bible. That'd be pretty cool. You know, so maybe something like that. You know, I just really like when people do that. And, you know, if you have any Christian games, tell me them. So I can, you know, give them a like and be like, yeah, look, this is generally a good game, or it's just not. And it's just a Christian label on it, right? Because they're two different things, right? Just throwing Christian label on something to sell it is stupid. Right? That's not good. Right? You're just throwing on it to get a niche market, and then you're not really doing it for the right reasons. Right? I want to do this for the right reasons. Right? I want to do it because I want to be transparent with people about what they're gonna see in games and what a game contains, and about faith, you know? I don't want people to look at this and be like, oh, God's saying I can't ever play, I don't know, Donald Duck on Quackers. I don't know why that's the first game that came in my head, but it was. But, like, you know, let's say Donald Duck on Quackers has, I don't know, Donald Duck join the mob, shooting up heroin, doing coke. Like, no, that's not a good game, right? And I feel like, you know, it would be reasonable for everyone to be like, hey, you know, as a Christian, you probably shouldn't play that. Or like, Schedule 1, I think is fine. I think it's a great game. I know a lot of people are like, what? I've never played it. But from what I've seen, for like an adult who's intelligent and, you know, is not stupid and is not addicted, is fine. But obviously, if you are, then it would be an issue, right? It could lead you back into sin. But for the majority of people, I don't think it would. You know, so yeah, like, I think it's fine. Just not when you're a kid. I don't really think kids should be playing Schedule 1, right? And I don't think anyone's gonna argue with that. I don't think anyone's out here being like, kids should play Schedule 1 and learn to make drugs. Like, no. But also, you gotta ask yourself, like, is this good? Is it glorifying God? Well, you're making drugs. So, probably not. But, I mean, you know, we're not called to just be mindless robots all the time, right? God gave us relaxing and time for ourselves. So, you know, when you're in your free time, you have to use it wisely. So, that's mostly where I'm at with the channel, where it's gonna go, and everything else. So I hope you enjoy. Make sure to follow, subscribe, do all that if you want to follow along. You know, the next video might be FF8. Yeah, it would probably be FF8. I'm just thinking. I think it would be FF8. What's the big stink? Could be Obscure. What's the big stink? Could be something else too. Could be, yeah. Those are two that I'm working on. Like, I have the script for FF8 all written, so I think that would be the next one, unless something like really changes. It would either be that or Obscure for sure. I'm just not quite sure which one, you know, because the FF8 script is really long. It's going to take me a really long time to write, finish, and everything. So, it might not end up being that one. But as of now, that would be the plan. The FF8 is the next one to come out. And then probably Obscure. Yeah. And, you know, there'll just be those other videos, those other random ones. I might try to get my one friend on, play some games with him, just so we can make family-friendly content that's, like, you know, fun to watch. So, make sure to stay stinky, like everything else, subscribe, comment any games, share any thoughts, I don't know, whatever you got, and see you later.